Hello boys and girls, it's Mrs. Bramford here. I'm just going to talk you through the next few weeks of your English learning. Now last week you started to look at the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Hopefully you will have sequenced the story, you will have used some adjectives and had a look at the story in a bit more detail, writing some instructions and a book review. So for the next 3 weeks we're going to work towards writing our very own traditional tale. So Monday's lesson this week, Monday the 29th, we will be looking at the features of a traditional tale. There's a PowerPoint for you to work your way through. Just reading what it is, a few questions to answer, things to think about, and then a little comparison between the story of Little Red Riding Hood and the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. Now on your timetable there should be a link to the Jack and the Beanstalk story on YouTube, or if you just type in Jack and the Beanstalk story to YouTube, it should be one of the first ones that come up, and it will look just like this picture here. So there we go, that's Monday's lesson, nice and quick for you. Tuesday's lesson, we're thinking about describing the villains of the two stories and comparing them, so thinking about some of the things that are the same and some of the things that are different. So as you can see, a couple of slides just thinking about descriptive words you might use, adjectives you might use, and then having a go at comparing what is the same about these two villains and what is different. You might see that they look very, very different. The wolf is a lot smaller than the giant, he's a lot furrier, but both are scary, both are a bit mean, so those are the sorts of things you would need to think about as being the same. Try and use some full sentences there as well, remembering your capital letters and full stops. On Wednesday, we're going to be thinking about questions. We've done this before 1,000 times, so you should know what to include in questions, but a couple of slides again, just to help you through, remember how we write a question. And there's Eddie the elephant helping us out with a question. So your question writing is going to be thinking about what you would want to ask the giant. Now, it's something that you don't know. You might start it with, I would like to know if the giant was sad when Jack took the hen, sorry. So I might say, right, giant, was he sad? Were you sad? Is how I'm going to start it. Remember my capital letter. Were you sad when Jack stole your hen? And it's a question, so we need to end it with a question mark. Thank you very much for helping. There are some question starters here. Also, if you want to head to the plan that you will be using the following week, there is a writing checklist. We will make sure that is up for you as well. So lots of space there for you to do some writing of your questions for the giant. Thursday is something a little bit different. So if we have a look at the beginning of this slide, we know how the story ends. Jack stole the hen, the giant chased after him, he whizzed down the beanstalk and managed to chop the beanstalk down just in time to stop the giant, and he made it into a slide, and there were lots of golden hens to help him there. But I'm not keen on that ending. I want to make it a bit different, and I wondered if you could help me. So how would you like the story to end? Instead of Jack stealing the hen and becoming rich with his mother at the end, what could have happened? Maybe the giant caught Jack and gobbled him up. Maybe the hen couldn't really lay golden eggs, or only could up in the clouds, so Jack just had a chicken rather than a constant supply of money. Or maybe Jack spoke to the giant and convinced him to become his friend. So, how are we going to end the story? I've taken this from the end of the book. I had a little listen to the story and I've carried on from this point. Jack trembled and thought he must leave now. He was halfway down the hall when he heard, oh, how am I going to finish it? I think I'm going to choose the giant becoming his friend. I'm feeling nice today. So what did he hear? Maybe he heard the giant. I'm going to carry on from the end of the sentence, so that isn't going to be a capital letter because we're finishing off this sentence. He was halfway down the hall when he heard the giant cry out. Jack stopped and turned around to see what had happened. So my sentence there, I've kept it in the past tense. It's Jack didn't stop, he stopped. He didn't turn, he turned around to see what had happened. I've used a conjunction there. I've used my and. I've remembered a capital letter at the beginning and a full stop at the end. Capital letter again. The giant had bumped his toe. Just going to push this down a bit. Bumped his toe on the table and had started to sob. I'm not going to say cry because I used cry earlier. He's going to sob. Oh dear, the poor giant. What's Jack going to do to make him feel better, I wonder? Maybe he could go and give him a hug. Jack didn't want to see the giant cry, so ran back to him and gave the giant a huge hug. I'm going to put an exclamation mark there as well. Now, having a little look through, check my spellings were all correct. What could the giant that bumped his toe on the table? Maybe it could be on the enormous table. I'm putting a adjective in there. Jack didn't want to see the giant cry, so he ran back and gave the giant a huge hug. There we go. I'm going to add a little bit more later, but I'm not going to bore you with it now. It's just to get you in the habit of writing in a story way, thinking of all the lovely words that you would use in your story, thinking back to if I can find it, our lovely traditional tales and what key things there might be used in there. Okay, let's get rid of that one and we'll go on to the following week. So this is the week beginning the 6th of July and the only thing you will need is your plan for this week. Throughout the week you're going to work your way through the whole plan. So I have labelled each part as you need it. Monday for the characters on the front, you've got your writing checklist at the bottom, and then Tuesday you've got your mountain up there, and Wednesday you've got your setting. Thursday you're thinking about powerful verbs. I'll come to that in a moment, but you'll be working across the whole plan. So Monday, you are thinking about the characters in your story. So I'm thinking about my story, what I want to do. I've got a fairy as my main character. I could give her a name. What could I call my fairy? I'll call her Florence. Florence the fairy. There we go. So Florence is my main character. I would like to describe her a little bit more so we know what kind of a fairy she is. So I'm just going to copy this and then paste it so that I can write some adjectives. So here we go. She is going to be a kind fairy. She is going to be tiny. Oh, tiny, small, mini. I'm going to stick with tiny. I like that as a word. She is going to have, I might say something about her wings. I might say blue and shiny wings. They have to be shiny because she's a fairy. There we go. And then I'm going to have my villain. So I decided my villain was going to be a troll, a green, angry, nasty troll. So I'm going to write those words down. Green. What else did I have? His temper. He's going to be very angry. And thinking back to our villains that we were comparing before, what they all had in common, they were nasty, they were mean, they were angry. So I'm going to put some of those words down. I might want to describe his stinky feet, or his hairy nose, or his sharp teeth, all those horrible sorts of things. So I decided down here as well that I'm going to have 2 other characters in my story. In Little Red Riding Hood and in Jack and the Beanstalk there was the children's mother. So I decided to have a big brother for my story, and I'm going to call him George because I've been reading George's Marvellous Medicine and I love that story, so I thought I'd use that name. I've also got the dog here who's going to be Florence's dog. I might call him Scruffy. And what do you think Scruffy will look like? I think he's going to be quite small. He's going to be dirty, but he's going to be a very nice, fun, friendly dog. So I could add some more adjectives there. Moving on to Tuesday's lesson. I've already done this, but this is the kind of thing I would like to see from you on Tuesday. So thinking back to the first week where you were sequencing Little Red Riding Hood and you sorted the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and then the end, how it all finished. So I decided that the beginning of the story, George was going to be at home with the fairy. I'm going to write Florence there so I can remember that's her name. George wanted Florence to fetch mushrooms for tea. And she's playing with Scruffy on her way to get them, and she gets lost. Nice solid start to a traditional tale, somebody getting lost. So the middle of the story, this is where our villain comes in, our troll. He's going to try and trick the fairy. He's going to say he will help, but he wants to keep her as a pet under his bridge. And he's going to capture her somehow. I haven't quite decided how yet. Maybe he could traps the troll, traps Florence in a box. There we go. Oh, I've just run out of room there, so I'm going to move that up so there's enough room there. There we go. Right. And then the end of the story. So Scruffy the dog is going to run home to George and bark at him until he comes to help. But just like my story, my ending of the story for Jack and the Beanstalk, I don't want the troll to be sad at the end. I thought Florence could make friends with the troll and then go and visit him the next day, so they're best friends at the end, and the troll, instead of being angry and nasty, is going to be lovely again. Okay, Wednesday's lesson. You're going to think about where your story is set. So you will have an empty box here with just setting and the day at the top. What I would like you to do is draw a picture and write about where your story is set. Now I've got 2 settings in my story. I've got a magical woods where Florence and George and Scruffy live together, and where Florence goes to look for her mushrooms. And then I'm going to have the troll bridge, because trolls like to live under bridges, don't they? If we think back to Three Billy Goats Gruff, they hide under the troll bridge. So that's where the troll is going to be, and that's where Florence is going to get lost. So again, I'd like you to write some adjectives to describe the place, make it very exciting, make sure we know a little bit more about it so we can describe it in our story. So magical's already up there. I'm going to say dark, because that's quite a good adjective for there. It might be, there might be shimmering light. Oh, shimmering is one of my favourite words. And the troll bridge is going to be rotten. The wood's going to be rotten, and there'll be lots of other horrible things going on there. So Thursday's lesson for the second week, the week beginning the 6th, I've asked you to think of some powerful verbs. So let's just have a little look here. Our powerful verbs, instead of run, how can we make it more interesting, more exciting, more descriptive? So instead of run, we're going to sprint. Instead of looking, we're going to peek. Instead of walking, I might stroll. Instead of eat, I might gobble it all up. So you are going to think of powerful verbs for our characters, and maybe even for certain parts of the story and the setting as well. So how might Florence fly? I think Florence is going to flutter. I might do these in a different colour, just so I can tell that they're my powerful verbs. Verbs are normally yellow. I'm going to do it in red, just because yellow is not really going to show up on here. Our powerful verbs there should be yellow. So she is going to flutter. When she's going through the woods, I might have Florence stroll. That was a one from down at the bottom, but I'm going to borrow it because I think it's a lovely one. And the troll. Oh, now again, he might be a gobbler. Gobble. He's going to be instead of sitting, he might be lazing under the bridge. And how might he talk? I think he's going to growl rather than talk. Now I could think of a few powerful verbs, that the dog could be doing. It might be at certain points, the troll might snap the box shut. So I might put that in my same red colour, so I know they're powerful verbs for me. They might hug at the end of the story. Cuddle's quite a nice one, isn't it? Instead of playing, I might change that playing to something else a little bit more exciting. Now down here in the woods, we might think about the tree. Oh, I just need to go get my red. How would the tree move? The tree might be tree waving in the wind. Oh, sorry, wind spelt incorrectly. I need to make sure I copy that. And the bridge might be, what could the bridge be doing? I think the bridge may be swaying in the wind. Now they're both in the wind, so we might change one of those up when we're in the story, or I might just leave those as they are because it's quite exciting. So there we have it, the plan. On the Friday, what you are going to be doing is using your plan to start to think about your story. Maybe you could draw a story map, you could act it out, you could retell the story to someone at home. So here is the plan. I'm just going to move it to the side because the next week what you will all be doing is writing your story. Now, if we have a look here, I'm just going to move it over. I'm going to zoom out a little bit there. So, writing the story, I've got some paper here, but you might choose to do it on any plain paper you have. You do not have to print any of this out. Even the plan for the week beginning the 6th, please don't feel you have to print it out. You could just do each of the bits on a separate piece of paper, but make sure they all stay together. The writing checklist is quite useful, but if you have a photo of it on your phone next to you or something like that, just so it's there to remind you, especially when you are doing your writing, that would be fantastic. So I have called my story The Fairy and the Troll. I might want to make that a little bit more exciting when I edit it, but for now I'm just going to keep it as it is. I'm just going to help you look through the story. I'm going to show you how to write the beginning of the story with a little bit of support, and then we're going to just edit using the checklist as well. So this would be the week beginning the 13th of July. I've got my plan here, so I'm going to have it next to me at all times. You will need to too. So for Monday's lesson, I'm going to have a go at writing the beginning and maybe the start and the middle of the story. And then Tuesday you would try and finish the middle, start on the end, and then Wednesday you're having a go at making sure the whole story is finished and editing what you've written. So, beginning of the story, George wanted Florence to fetch mushrooms for tea. She's playing with Scruffy and gets lost. So I have started my story with once upon a time. On the checklist here at the bottom, we have got a few different words. That might be a nice way to start your traditional tale. Have a go, choose which you want, or you could choose a different one. There were plenty on a previous PowerPoint as well. I've also got some key vocabulary. There's often a lot of magic in traditional tales. There's sometimes a bit of love, not in our story, I don't think. Maybe a castle, maybe a forest, were all words that you could have used to help. I don't think I'll need a lot of those, but magic I definitely will need, because fairies are very magical, aren't they? So I'm going to think of what my sentence will be first of all. I'm going to start it with once upon a time. I'm going to think about that sentence. So I need to say a little bit about Florence and where she lives with her brother George. So once upon a time, I'm going to say it to you now, there lived a fairy, a tiny fairy called Florence, who lived with her brother George in the magical woods. So that's a very long sentence. I'm going to have to keep saying it to myself. Hear it is just hearing the sounds that you can in the story. So you're going to help me write it now. So once upon a time, there lived a fairy called Florence who lived with her brother George in the magical woods. Okay, I've started with a capital letter, I've finished with a full stop. Where else should I have had capital letters? Oh, pardon me. Where else should I have had capital letters in my sentence here? Florence is a name. There we go. And George is a name. They both need a capital letter, so I'm going to edit those there. What you might like to do is get a pen of a different colour and edit it that way, cross it out and change it. But I can't do that on the computer, so I'm just going to change it as I go. So once upon a time there lived a fairy called Florence who lived with her brother George. Oh, who else did she live with? She lives with her dog Scruffy, doesn't she? So I'm going to use a conjunction down here, and her dog. Scruffy needs a capital S. In the magical woods. Now, having a little look back through here, I haven't got any powerful verbs, but I have got lived twice. Once upon a time there was a fairy called Florence who lived with her brother in the magical woods. Lovely. Adjectives, have I got any? I've described the woods there as magical. Maybe I could describe Florence. So I'll use one of my adjectives here, a tiny fairy. There was, a tiny fairy called Florence who lived with her brother, or I did say he was her big brother, so I'm going to write that there as well. So just going through that sentence, I thought about it, I said it out loud, I was listening for the sounds as I was writing it, I wrote it down, and then I went back and checked it. Now the checking we will be looking at mostly on the Wednesday, but you can do it as you go through. Just like I did there. I looked at my checklist and I thought adjectives. I don't have enough of those, so where can I put it in? I need to find the noun and put my adjective before. And then I thought powerful verbs. I just checked where the verbs were for this one and made sure they weren't both the same. I have used a conjunction in here, so I'm very happy with that first sentence. So I'm going to continue. What did Florence do? So George wanted Florence to fetch mushrooms for tea. So I'm going to start by using a time conjunction, one day. George asked Florence to get him some mushrooms from deep inside the woods. Not just in the woods, deep inside. It's got to be further than where he is. From deep inside the woods for him to cook for tea. I'm going to go back through again. So I've got a capital letter at the beginning. I've got a full stop at the end. I've remembered my capital letters for George and Florence names as well. I'm going to read it again just to check it makes sense. I did that in my head. I'm not going to bore you with it again. And just have a little look at some of the words. Maybe get. George asked Florence to get him some mushrooms. I'm going to change that to fetch. Just a bit of a nicer verb to use. From deep inside the woods for him to cook for tea. I'm going to try and get because in there, my conjunction. From deep inside the woods because he wanted to cook them for tea. There we go. So boys and girls, for the rest of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you would read through, you would write as much as you can. We've given you a few days to do it just because it is a lot to do. Those few minutes there, writing that little bit, my brain has worked in overdrive, very, very hard work. So you will need little breaks to get yourselves through it. But if you could try for Wednesday to have a beautifully written, edited book, that would be fantastic. Thursday then, we'd like you to publish your work. So you could either write it up neatly on another piece of paper, you could have a go at making a book by folding some paper in half and writing a bit of your story on each page and giving it a picture to go with it. Or you could have a go at typing it up on the computer and drawing a picture on paint or something like that to make your story look very, very smart. Now Friday's lesson, it'll be the last day of term. It's a long way off, I know, but Friday the 17th of July, I'd like you to share your book with someone in your family. And of course, share it with us. Send it in to Dojo. We would love to see your stories. There has been a book review template that has been sent home for your work on Friday last week, so you can have a go maybe at giving your book review to someone in your family so they could read your story and tell you what they really liked about your story and if they would recommend it to somebody else. So it's been lovely to share the work with you boys and girls. I hope this has helped, but remember, if you are not sure what you need to do at any point, do not hesitate to contact us on Dojo. Send a little message and we will try and help you as much as we can. Good luck, and we cannot wait to hear your stories. Thank you very much, boys and girls. Bye bye.